Well, that white supremacy rally known as Unite the Right doesn't start until tomorrow, but you can see messages are already chalked out in advance of that rally. These messages include things like peace, imagine love, tolerance. That's right in front of the Robert E. Lee statue here at Emancipation Park, formerly known as Lee Park. Now, as for all of the controversy right now, this is all over the location of the rally itself. The organizer, Jason Kessler, had applied for a permit to have the rally here. However, the city of Charlottesville voted to remove this statue, and that's part of the reason why Kessler says they wanted to have it here in the first place. But due to security concerns and the size of the rally, expected to have more than 700 people, the city voted on Monday to have it instead in McIntyre Park. Kessler tweeted, "They're still going to have it here in Emancipation Park, and some people are concerned."
All these are residences around here. So, I mean, think about it. Little kids are here and that sort of thing. And then all of a sudden there's like massive people and people with arms.
Now, police say technically those ralliers do have the right to be here in Emancipation Park because this is a public space. You can see police are ready just in case they do show up here. They've got the barricades ready to go for tomorrow. And they say they're ready just in case there are two rallies, both at McIntyre Park and here at Emancipation Park. Reporting in Charlottesville, Marissa Parra, ABC 13 News.
We begin tonight in the Breaking News Center with chaos in Charlottesville. Right now, one person is dead and more than 24 others injured after that incident you saw. The governor calling for a state of emergency.
And now more developing news out of Charlottesville right now after state police helicopter went down. Tonight, ABC 13 is on top of this breaking news story with team coverage for you on this day of tragedy that's so close to home. We've got every angle covered.
ABC 13's Marissa Parra is live at the scene of where that car crash happened. But first, let's get to Whitney Burney. She was at the scene of where that helicopter has gone down. Whitney?
Mark, that's right. We're here on, we're near Birdwood Golf Course in Charlottesville, and we were told that there was a helicopter crash over back here. Now, we spoke to a couple of neighbors who say that they heard a loud crash. They came outside and saw smoke billowing in the air. You can see Virginia State Police is on the scene. Albemarle County Police is on the scene. We're still working to confirm details, but we do know at this point that the FSA is investigating this crash. Like we said, police have just gotten here. This is a really, really fresh scene, but this is all we know at this point.
And thank you so much, Whitney, and she will have more coverage on that in just a few minutes. And now we want to go live to ABC 13's Marissa Parra. She is live from the scene of where that car plowed into a group of people.
That's right. Marissa, what's the very latest? Fill us in.
Well, Mark and Carrie, right now we are on the downtown mall in Charlottesville. You can see the police are lined up right behind us here. We're about a block away from where that happened. I'm going to have my photographer try to zoom in. You can see, well, he says we can't see right now. There are a few articles of clothing scattered over there. We can't get beyond this barricade because they are still investigating that scene, of course. But what we know is one person is dead. At least 19 are injured. The city confirms that at least one person who was a driver is arrested. You cannot see the other two vehicles that were in this crash here, but what we understand is that it was a very different scene a couple hours ago. You're about to see video from the tragic scene on 4th and Water Street where one person died, 19 were injured. And not even a mile away, we actually stumbled upon what many are saying is the vehicle that was used in that crowd plowing. As you can see, it very closely matches the description of the vehicle we saw in the video earlier. It's not confirmed, however, you can see the vehicle there was roped off by police. There was a forensic unit out there. It had significant damage, yet there were no other cars around. So again, it's not confirmed, but it very closely matches the description of that vehicle. And again, we did learn that driver was apprehended. Within the last half hour, we spoke to a witness who says in his 30 years of living in Charlottesville, he has never seen anything quite like this.
Had sped down 4th Street into a whole group of people that were peacefully marching up the street, and apparently he just plowed at a high rate of speed towards them and then smashed into a Toyota Camry, and who then hit another car. And those two cars are still there as part of the crime scene. And then apparently then he backed up and did it again and rammed into some more people.
Now, this is obviously very difficult for the people around here. I've heard time and time again from people who live here saying this is tragic. This is not the Charlottesville that they know. As you can tell, the scene has quieted down a lot from the time that video was shot 3 hours ago. But police are armored, ready to go in case tensions do flare up again. And of course, we will be live at 11 with the very latest. Carrie and Mark.
And Marissa, before you go, let me ask you this, if I can. That driver of the car who is now in police custody, was it police who actually got him out of the car, or was it people in the crowd who pulled him out? Because we know that he drove a short distance down the street there.
Well, Mark, we actually do not know that quite yet. We're still working to get those details. We heard from neighbors who were there. They saw a man running from that vehicle that was about a mile away from here. But once we have those details confirmed, we will let you know on air and online.
So thank you, live there in Charlottesville. We will get back to you a little bit later. Let's take a look at some pictures now that were captured moments after that car plowed into those people there. Those 19 people, 1 dead. Photographers were on the scene as first responders worked to make sure everyone was going to be okay. Early this morning, we were in Charlottesville as all the events were unfolding.
Clashes breaking out even before the scheduled rally for 12 p.m. ABC 13's Whitney Burney was also there and explains what both sides have to say.
By authority of the Commonwealth of Virginia, this event has been declared an unlawful assembly. You are to leave the area now, or you will be arrested.
A state of emergency.
Racists go home! It didn't matter whether it was George Washington or Robert E. Lee, or for that matter, Abraham Lincoln. You know, they were people 150 years ago.
I'm glad it's getting torn down. The Confederate War, the Confederacy, the Civil War is not something to be memorialized.
The two sides going back and forth all morning. This comes after state officials announced plans to tear down Confederate monuments in Charlottesville.
It's the definition of white supremacy. It's the definition of profit over humanity.
I think it's a historical monument and it should stay where it's at.
The protests ending before it even got started. Crowds forced to disperse 30 minutes after the rally's official start time.
What's going on here is it's atrocious.
Seen a lot of violence from both sides.
There is anti-white Christian culture.
I'm here for my ancestors. I'm here for my peers, for my family.
With messages for folks on the other side.
We need to push and resist against this right now. This wouldn't have happened a couple of years ago. This cannot be the norm.
Have you with us for our continuing coverage of the chaos in Charlottesville. I'm Mark Spain.
And I'm Patty Martin, and a lot to get to this evening with a lot of new developments today, including more violence.
Yeah, we have team coverage with ABC 13's Whitney Burney and Carrie Beal. And Whitney, let's get to you first. You're on UVA's campus where we just learned that a vigil scheduled for now has been canceled.
Yeah, Mark, that's right. A sense of heartbreak out here in Charlottesville tonight behind the loss of those 3 lives. Now, I'm here on UVA's campus right in front of the rotunda, as you can see. And here students were organizing a walk in light of the death of Heather Heyer, the 32-year-old who was hit by that car. Right now, that protest has been rescheduled. It may have been canceled. We're really not sure, but students are saying it's too dangerous for Charlottesville at this point. The Charlottesville newspaper, the Daily Progress, said on Twitter that they plan to move the vigil to Facebook Live. We're also hearing from students who showed up here that it might be moved to downtown. So we're still inquiring on that. We're still looking into that, and we'll let you know, and we'll show you live on air and in our ABC 13 News app. Live in Charlottesville, Whitney Burney, ABC 13 News.
All right, thank you, Whitney. Well, that chaos in Charlottesville today included a crowd trying to attack the organizer of the white nationalist rally.
And ABC 13's Carrie Beal was right in the middle of it. She joins us live from Charlottesville with more on how this all played out. Carrie?
Mark and Noreen, this happened right behind us here. It happened during a news conference that was behind City Hall. And from the moment Jason Kessler, the organizer of the Unite the Right rally, arrived, it was clear he was not welcome. People shouted "murderer," used profanity, and told the organizer of the Unite the Right rally, Jason Kessler, to go home.
It's a little scary. There's guys on the rooftop with sniper rifles.
Police in riot gear surrounding the area as Kessler tried to speak.
What happened yesterday was a result of the Charlottesville police officers refusing to do their job.
Most of what he said got drowned out by shouting. And then one man started to walk forward with two middle fingers up, and things escalated quickly.
Jason. Indict murder now! Indict for murder! For murder!
At some point, the crowd surged on him and he ran away.
People tried to shove and punch Kessler. One man was even pulled to the ground by police. Police then escorted Kessler to a street nearby, and he finally left. People elated as he did. In a Periscope tweet, Jason Kessler also says that he does plan to have another press conference down the road. He hasn't specified when. And coming up at 11 o'clock, we'll have more on what Jason Kessler said in his speech today. Reporting live in Charlottesville, Carrie Beal, ABC 13 News.
All right, thank you, Carrie. Well, a memorial is now in place at the downtown mall where a driver plowed into counter-protesters yesterday during that Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. That crash injured 19 people. Heather Heyer was there to counter-protest alt-right and white supremacy groups when she and others were hit. Other protesters took to the streets last night and this afternoon, laying flowers at the site and lighting candles, saying these displays of violence don't represent Charlottesville.
Tonight, the Charlottesville mayor just wrapped up a press conference about a half hour ago. The police chief did after a weekend of chaos in the city. ABC 13's Mark Spain was there.
Yeah, he joins us live now tonight in Charlottesville. Mark, was he able to shed any more light on exactly how all this violence unfolded there?
I want to show you over my shoulder. Take a look. This is where the memorial is growing for the 32-year-old paralegal who lost her life when that car slammed into those protesters, Heather Heyer. That is where it's going on right there. But you're right. Just a few moments ago, the police chief here in Charlottesville, Al Thomas, talked about what went so terribly wrong here, and ABC 13's Courtney Joden was in there listening. Courtney, tell us what we found out that we didn't know before.
Yes, Mark, this is the first statement that he has made since this past weekend's events, the deadly events that led up to Saturday. And now he did say, Chief Police Al Thomas, he said that they tried to keep the two sides separate this entire weekend, but both sides entered Emancipation Park differently than they were supposed to, and they had people in place to prevent them from clashing, but they ended up clashing, and this weekend's events resulted. And then he also said that they urged leaders from both sides to protest nonviolently, but things then got out of hand, and that is when the car went through 4th Street and hit into dozens of people, including Heather Heyer. Now, he didn't say any motive for that as of now, but they are still looking into that. He did not comment again on that motive, and he did say that he has regrets of the lives that were lost over this weekend, but he didn't comment on any regrets that they did as a department. And this street, 4th Street, will also be closed until further notice, he says, because the memorial is here for Heather and those that were injured. Now, Mark, we will have more tonight, but I'm going to leave it to you for the rest.
Okay. Courtney Joden, thank you. And as she said, that's right, those 3 lives lost, Heather Heyer, also those 2 Virginia State troopers as well. But today, the man who caused so much violence, according to police, James Field, was in court. Let's give you a little bit of information about him. James Field, that man charged with plowing down a group of protesters here with his car, in court today. He is charged with second-degree murder for the death of Heather Heyer, among other charges. ABC 13's Chris Hoffman was inside that courtroom today. it must have been extremely emotional for everybody.
It was tense as well, Mark, and that tension, it flowed to outside as well, just as we exited the courtroom, there. Tensions flared between white nationalist supporters as well as protesters, and it started just as we all came out. It was the first time Fields has gone in front of a general district court. He was video conferenced in. He says he doesn't make enough money to afford an attorney, making about $650 every 2 weeks. Now, the judge gave him a court-appointed attorney. Now, usually they give him a public defender, but a relative of someone in the office was injured in the crash on Saturday. The judge, he issued no bond, so Fields remains in jail. Now, when I left the courthouse, chaos ensued between the nationalist supporters and protesters. Charlottesville residents do say they're tired of the violence and really do want police to step up.
A lot of it falls on city council. A lot of it falls on all the involved law enforcement agencies, on the state, on the mechanisms, the political mechanisms that govern our country right now, and on the people who are here terrorizing and murdering and beating people.
Tonight, the country continues trying to heal following a chaotic weekend in Charlottesville. Today, ABC 13 spoke to the co-workers of Heather Heyer. She is the 32-year-old paralegal killed when violence erupted in that college town. At her desk at the Miller Law Group sits just as she left it. There are files, voicemails. Her co-workers say she was part of a family to them, serving in bankruptcy department for 5 years. With having no background on bankruptcy law, she quickly learned the codes and became a valued member of their team. We're told one of the biggest things that will be missed is her smile. When co-workers learned of the news on Saturday, they say they were devastated. They say she was passionate about the fight for everyone to be treated equally. Even days later, they're still coming to terms that she won't be walking through the door over the weekend anymore.
And I was not really in a mindset that it was Monday. I was thinking still weekend, and she would come in and nobody came in.
And while we spoke to Heather's colleagues, flowers continued to come into the office from the community offering condolences. Tonight on 13 News at 6, you're going to hear from more co-workers on the loss of a friend. The father of Heather is also speaking out after the attack that left his daughter dead. Mark Heyer says that he found out about her death from her mother. Tonight, he says he has a special message for the suspected driver who hit her.
Through tears and from the hospital, she said, our daughter's gone. And I kind of lost it. I kind of freaked. I don't hold any ill will toward this young fella that did this. He's stupid, okay? He's only 20 years old. He don't have sense enough to make a lifelong decision about nothing. You know, I forgive him. Flat out, just I forgive him.
No father should have to do this. But I love my daughter.
Tonight, family and friends are still mourning the loss of Heather Heyer. She was the young woman tragically killed this past weekend in Charlottesville, and hundreds came out today to a memorial service in her honor. ABC 13 has team coverage for you now with Chris Hoffman, Whitney Burney, and Katie Brooke. We begin tonight with Chris, who took in that service firsthand. Chris.
Inside the Paramount Theater, a sea of purple as family and friends shared their loving and lasting thoughts about Heather Heyer and how people can honor her in their everyday lives. Purple, Heather Heyer's favorite color, a blend of two others. Fitting for the woman that fought for everyone to blend and love each other.
I was overwhelmed at the rainbow of colors in this room. That's how Heather was.
Over the course of an hour, the city of Charlottesville learned who Heather Heyer was. A woman who wasn't afraid to tell you what she thought, leading to some laughs on this somber day.
When I would think I had the right answer, Heather would give me a different answer.
Amazing grace. More importantly, she fought injustices and worked compassionately with clients as a paralegal.
Heather, when my children ask me who I admire most, I will tell them you, my baby cousin, who is larger than life and too good for this world.
No shortage of emotion from her friends and family. Her mother, Susan Bro, says Heather may no longer be with us on Earth, but her work and passion for equality will never die.
They tried to kill my child to shut her up. Well, guess what? You just magnified her.
The Charlottesville community honored Heather Heyer, the woman killed when a car plowed into the crowd the day of that white nationalist rally. ABC 13's Chris Hoffman shows it that they honored her with the very place where she was killed.
And the city hopes that naming it in her honor will never let them forget her legacy and will continue to help them heal. The messages are clear. Charlottesville is not forgetting what happened, and love will win.
Heather was an ordinary person who managed to stand up for what she believed in, and that made an extraordinary impact.
Heather Heyer's mother, Susan Bro, just wanted a simple street sign to remember her daughter. She says Heather wouldn't have wanted a park or a statue named after her.
I'm glad they were able to recognize this small part of who she was.
In the 4 months since her death, Charlottesville is taking strides to come together. They hope the sign can serve as a beacon of hope and light to get past the dark images of August 12th.
What happened here, it was a very dark chapter, but we will become stronger and more full of light.
Mayor Mike Signer says by putting up this sign, the city shows they will not stand for hate. So as the chalk markings start to wash away and the flowers at the memorial die off, Heather Heyer will continue to live on high above the intersection of 4th Street and Water Street.
We all need to stand up and take a stand for what's right, take a stand for what's good in this world.
In Charlottesville, Chris Hoffman, ABC 13 News.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Carrie Beal. People in Charlottesville were ready to speak today during a town hall meeting. It was supposed to last just 2 hours, but went far beyond that time frame. It comes 2 weeks after the violent Unite the Right rally where one woman died. We have team coverage on this tonight with both ABC 13's Courtney Joden and Whitney Burney. First, we go to Courtney with what people were saying at that meeting.
There was a heated amount of discussion among community members and those running the town hall.
That's why we're here. That's why we're here. So let me also say, if I may.
The city of Charlottesville partnered with the Community Relations Services, which is a division of the U.S. Department of Justice. A lot of people at the town hall were not happy they were there, or the media, for that matter.
With all due respect to you and your colleagues who come to visit us, because of who you work for, we don't trust you. We don't trust your boss.
The purpose of the town hall was to create a road to recovery for the community. But dozens of the people that spoke say that's going to take a while for that to come close to happening. One woman asked why hate speech was not appropriately dealt with during the rallies and protests.
Blood and soil, Jews will not replace us. Torchlit rallies with no permits. Heil Hitler. White power? Is that free speech? Is that free speech? No.
Others say if they want Charlottesville to be a world-class city, the government and the community need to work together to create one.
As a community, we have to remember that our community is broader than just police. It is what we do and how we act and how we decide to move from here forward.
In Charlottesville, Courtney Joden, ABC 13 News.
And the statue of Robert E. Lee in Emancipation Park is now uncovered. Both the statue of Lee and Stonewall Jackson were veiled in black tarps last week in honor of Heather Heyer, who died during the violent rally. Newsplex reports that the Lee statue was vandalized overnight, and police are still searching for the person who uncovered it. This is not the first time that statue was vandalized, and it comes at a time when people are asking the mayor and the police chief of Charlottesville to resign. ABC 13's Whitney Burney explains how people want things to change.
Questions.
Why weren't you there when DeAndre Harris was right beside the police department?
Today was supposed to be about how to move forward, but many were only there for answers.
When you say you want to unite the community, bring us all together, are you talking about also uniting with the guy who has a Confederate flag bumper sticker on his pickup truck that I pass every day on my walk to work?
If the city is just thinking that this is a city problem, then that's never going to get fixed.
Some disappointed in police efforts during the rally.
But as a 50-year-old white woman, it was a shocker for me to see how utterly the police failed to protect the residents of our community.
I'm not scared to fight, I'm not scared to talk, but I want to feel safe in this town.
In calling for the resignation of city leaders,
Chief of police needs to go, and so does Maurice Jones.
You are the mayor of the 1%.
City council must resign because there is blood on their hands.
some say there's no way to move forward if the city doesn't understand the root problem.
These are issues that are deeply embedded in our species, deeply embedded, that we have been conditioned. The problem here is not all of these things that we're listing off. The problem starts with ourselves.
We have to take this opportunity and time to change the laws.
The meeting ended with no real resolve, but a lengthy list of things to do. In Charlottesville, Whitney Burney, ABC 13 News.
You will not replace us! You will not replace us! You will not replace us!
If you don't know the name Richard Spencer, you likely know some of the controversial events he's associated with. Whether it's marching into Charlottesville with tiki torch-bearing followers or lending his support to a rally that ended in violence and death, Spencer is a polarizing figure. Now, since he works in Virginia and believes in the freedom of speech like we do, I reached out to him for an interview. He said yes. In my exclusive interview, I found a man dedicated to his cause who wants everyone to know he's not going away anytime soon. You've seen the images and heard the chants.
White lives matter!
Witnessed the protest. These violent scenes from Charlottesville have been shown around the world.
Nazi scum! Get away!
The man orchestrating some of those controversial events works out of a second-floor apartment in Alexandria, Virginia. The movement that you are so much a part of is using Robert E. Lee as a catalyst to do what?
Well, Robert E. Lee is a symbol for the alt-right.
Richard Spencer is the face of the alt-right, a group that supports nationalism.
I am not a Southern nationalist. I'm an identitarian, and that means that I identify with white people, not just in the South, but around the country, really around the world.
As president of the National Policy Institute, a white nationalist group, Spencer uses the debate raging across America over Confederate statues and monuments to help grow the cause.
We are some of the only ones who are willing to stand up for them in a vigorous, forthright manner. And that's why we've been able to own the issue.
Spencer went to the University of Virginia. It's why he chose Charlottesville as a battleground over heritage. When the city announced it wanted to remove a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee from a downtown park, Spencer sensed an opportunity, not only to fight to keep it up, but advance this idea.
Be who you are!
The ethno-state would be a home for all white people. So this is it's a state that's kind of ancient in its way, but it's also totally new. So it would be a new type of political order.
In August, white supremacists, white nationalists, and neo-Nazis gathered in Charlottesville for the Unite the Right rally. Angry counter-protesters showed up too. This event would be different. Violence erupted. A driver plowed into the crowd. A number of people lay injured. One died. Richard Spencer was there. He says the police and Charlottesville Mayor Mike Signer created the disorder by shutting the event down.
By pushing out all of the peaceful people, Mike Signer and the police and the governor generated chaos.
So they're at fault.
Yes.
For what happened? They're at fault for the violence and for the death of Heather Heyer?
They are ultimately to blame.
No culpability on the right, from the alt-right.
Absolutely not. I mean, I'm not going to say something that isn't true just because that might make people feel better.
Spencer promises to continue pushing his white rights vision at college campuses where alt-right recruitment efforts are on the rise.
We are stronger than you, and you'll know it.
He promises to lead more torchlight rallies. He will do whatever he can to advance his cause, he says, because the First Amendment allows him to, regardless of the damage left behind.
I am at the center of the free speech debate precisely because I'm a heretic to the order.
Well, the officials in Charlottesville disagree with Spencer's assessment of who's to blame. And you might be wondering what it was like for me as a minority journalist to interview him. Well, I found him to be friendly, knowledgeable, and his views on race completely opposite from my own. Look, my parents raised me to see the world differently, and I do. There was only one race, the human race. The First Amendment and freedom of speech guides what my colleagues and I do on a daily basis. Without it, we run the risk of driving people with different, even scary views underground. We hope you agree.